We build our structures for refuge. And then a fire strikes.
Is he coming in here?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, that's okay. I'm trying to... How far are these doors?
The result is the most gripping expression of Earth's fury.
I was telling them to slow down. The fireman's coming, don't jump.
I leaned out to the left, and I caught her right in my one arm. She didn't even know what stopped her.
It's known as the Red Devil, and you don't want the Red Devil to come up and bite you.
Sometimes entire cities are aflame.
We need to call all the dispatchers to the floor. This thing's going to get out of hand.
Sometimes it is industry.
Anything can set these things off.
But when urban infernos burn, firefighters face the worst. All over the world, people live and work in crowded cities. They assume these fortresses of steel will protect them. But when fire strikes, tall buildings can become death traps.
Truck 1, 3 and 5, be with me face to face for an assignment.
A supposedly fireproof skyscraper in Los Angeles burns beyond the reach of ladders. Toxic smoke kills 84 people in a luxury Las Vegas hotel.
The deck gun is down.
Height and smoke are a firefighter's biggest foes.
High-rise fires are always a problem because there's people, they're high up, they have no way to get out, and people just panic.
When this 10-story Chicago apartment building burst into flames, Bill Heenan is one of the first firefighters on the scene.
I looked up and it was just total chaos. People were running around on the ground screaming and telling us to get off the rig. We had relatives up there. I looked up and I seen like 30 people hanging out windows. And we're like, oh my God, we're in trouble.
From the ground, Heenan quickly assesses the danger of the fire. But inside the building, 6 stories up, people are panicked and confused.
I was scared of the unknown because I didn't know how bad it was until I opened the door. And then when I opened the door, that's when I seen the wall of smoke.
With scores of neighbors trapped, Melick Henderson records the mayhem with his video camera.
You can hear people on different floors. It was so much chaos. You can hear the smoke rumbling in the hallways, and you can also hear the people screaming in the hallways.
To escape the smoke, people run to the only possible exits, the windows.
Just as I was getting my mask on, this guy comes running over and he says, my cousin is hanging by her fingertips. So I run over, I turn the corner, I see this girl hanging. I mean, just literally hanging by her fingertips. I says, I'll be right back, I gotta get a ladder.
They're coming, they're coming. Is everything all right? She's okay.
On the other side of the building, firefighters are trying desperately to gain control of the blaze. Meanwhile, Heenan and his men attempt to rescue the family trapped on the 6th floor. But the fire ladder isn't high enough.
We start raising the ladder, we get all the way up there. Here they're on the 6th floor. So we're 10 to 12 feet short to where we had to be. I'm right against the wall, and I'm like looking from here to like the ceiling to where they're at. And they're like, where's the rest of the ladder? And I'm like, listen, this is as high as the ladder goes. Well, I want you to stay right here. We got a snorkel coming with the basket that's gonna raise right up here and pull you right out of the window. You gotta stay there. You have no chance on jumping. You're 60 feet up.
Without warning, 10-year-old Linda Foster leaps from her 6th-story window.
I leaned out to the left, and I caught her right in my one arm. She didn't even know what stopped her. I finally got her close enough to me where I can get her a grip on the ladder, you know, and the wind's blowing. I'm thinking, now I got to get her down off the ladder. So then 2 seconds later, I just got myself a grip on a ladder, and her brother and her mother jumped out the window. And her brother had jumped onto a column that was alongside the building, and it was nothing I could do. You know, I felt helpless.
Somehow her brother survives the jump, but many others are in peril.
Everyone was in immediate danger. You hear people talking about how the fire is right at their front door, the smoke is coming through the door.
More people are now leaping from their windows. Among them is the mother of the girl Heenan is holding.
She started screaming, my mom, you know, my mother. And I said, listen, I go, you gotta hang on to me, because we're both gonna fall. And then when she looked down, she seen how high we were. And she's like, oh my God, we're gonna fall. I'm thinking, no, we're not gonna fall. She started going hysterical again, you know? And that's finally, I just pinned her to the ladder. I said, listen, you gotta hang on to me. I said, we're both gonna fall if you don't hang on to me.
Heenan manages to get the girl down the ladder safely. But inside, the victims are growing increasingly desperate, including Melik with his video camera.
Come over here, whatever you do.
Finally, a snorkel ladder reaches Melik's 5th floor window.
Is it coming in here?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, that's okay. I'm trying to... How far are these doors?
They're about...
There's a door right here. They're okay.
Look out,
what
Phil.
over here? The people in the
That
trap
number ones are getting it.
Crawling to avoid the potentially lethal smoke, firefighter Ozzy Moran risks his life to reach a trapped family.
Yeah. Don't worry about it. We got it.
When I got back to the engine, I could hear people on the radio saying that they couldn't get down the hallway, the guys that went in for the interior tech, because it was so hot.
Exhausted and half frozen from the cold, the firefighters won't give up. After 2.5 intense hours, they win the upper hand. But as the smoke clears, 4 people are dead. 2 from jumping, including Linda's mother. Out of 500 tenants, 62 people are injured. Most from smoke inhalation. Height and smoke are even more of a problem in New York City, with more high-rise buildings than any place in the United States. Firefighters can't always reach blazes from the outside, so they often battle the flames face to face.
In New York City, it's known as the Red Devil, and you don't want the Red Devil to come up and bite you.
Captain Dennis Devlin has been fighting fires in New York City for 18 years. Experience has taught him that the best way to subdue most structure fires is from the inside.
Get ready with this 2.5. Baby's rolling.
We found we can save the greatest amount of lives and protect the greatest amount of property by attacking the fire from within a building.
But attacking a fire from within often means working blind in a suffocating, smoke-filled environment.
That's why you want to open up at a higher elevation, cut the roof, get the bulkhead door, take a skylight. This way when the fire rushes to that opening, it'll be rushing right out into the atmosphere and away from the men that are going to put it out.
But even with proper ventilation, interior firefighting is hazardous.
I could feel my ears just burning through it. So had I not had this on, I'd probably have burnt ears for sure.
This melted helmet is evidence of a fire's fury. But a new anti-smoke technology may help conquer the Red Devil.
See my hand? Reach out and touch it.
Using thermal imaging science developed for the military, engineers created the Cairns Iris. This helmet-mounted imaging system gives firefighters a new weapon against blinding smoke: the power of sight.
This is a very, very different view
what I've ever had before.
Tests demonstrate the effectiveness of this new imaging system.
At this point, with a normal fire search, we wouldn't have any visibility at all. You can clearly see a victim off to the left on the floor.
This new technology may help firefighters save lives. But in the charred remains of his home in Chicago, Melek Henderson discovers it is technology that has failed him and his neighbors. Melek believes that this fire could have been prevented.
If their alarm would have went off, a lot of lives could have been saved.
But even with strict enforcement of fire safety codes, another tragedy will strike Chicago. Trapped in a burning building, the heat is so intense, it starts melting your shoes and the buttons off your clothes. The fire sucks oxygen out of the air. Toxic smoke chokes your lungs. You begin to suffocate. You rush to the window to escape, but you're 6 stories up, and there's no way out. This is the nightmare that will haunt Melek Henderson for the rest of his life.
A week, 2 weeks later, once a lot of stuff died down, I dreamed that I was in that apartment with the people as they were jumping. I was telling them to slow down, the fireman's coming, don't jump. I had that dream. We don't realize what happens to people who's in dramatic situations, but you're affected even if you don't think you're affected.
Melek's trauma happened in Chicago, where high-rise fires are a fact of life. In the spring of 1993, Chief Ray Hoff responds to another Chicago multi-story fire, this time at a transient hotel.
When we originally pulled up in front of the hotel, I'm looking at a situation where I now know that a bunch of people are going to die.
A faulty space heater has started the fire. Alarms are not working. And once again, residents find themselves trapped with no way out. In less than an hour, the fire rages into a 5-alarm blaze. The ladders are raised to rescue people on higher floors.
I need a ladder over here!
People are just hanging there. Some people are passed out on windowsills. Some people are straddled on the windowsills. You can see where people climbed out onto a windowsill to come meet you. You had people that should have jumped that didn't jump, people that shouldn't have jumped that jumped, and people who weren't going to do anything because they panicked.
The fire's burning me! The fire's burning me!
At ground level, firefighters frantically race to cut security bars that have trapped residents inside the burning building.
Fire coming out of the ceiling had them pinned against the bars, and we had firemen with the lines to try and protect them, and other firemen trying to cut the bars so we could get them out. And in most cases, they got them out in that alcove, but a couple people they lost talking to them eyeball to eyeball.
At least 7 people are critically injured. 15 are dead. Others sit in shock amidst the devastation. A raging fire. No warning. No exit. It was a deadly combination for the residents of the Paxton Hotel. As it was 50 years earlier for the patrons of Boston's Coconut Grove nightclub. Near the crowded dance floor, a flash fire breaks out. One of the few survivors describes how it happened.
Some fresh fellow put out the bulb in the corner above our heads, and the waiter came over with a match in order to see through the dimness. As he struck the match and put the bulb on, the palm tree in the corner became lighted from the match.
The blocked exits caused the majority of deaths. People are crushed and smothered trying to escape. The citizens of Boston are outraged. 468 people perished, trapped in one of the worst fire disasters in American history. Today, crowded public places like nightclubs have stricter codes because of tragedies like the Coconut Grove fire. But safety codes are only good if they are followed. In 1990, a Bronx social club is set ablaze. Nothing in Captain Dennis Devlin's career had prepared him for the Happy Land Social Club fire.
The apparatus pulled up at a good location, got off the rig, and there was a civilian standing there, an elderly black man, and he says, "You got a load of people in there." The fire was blowing out from this opening in the doorway where you couldn't even get within 10 feet of the doorway.
The fire is quickly extinguished, and Devlin makes his way in to search for survivors.
The smoke was hanging very low. There was no visibility. We found one victim. He was slumped at the bar with a extinguisher at his side. I remember after a couple of people were removed, I saw lights to my left. And I yelled over, I says, we got a whole load of bodies over here. And somebody yelled back, "So do we." They were all stacked on top of each other. It must have been 3 piled high. The street was full of bodies. There was no more room to put any more bodies. And it wasn't sinking in. It was almost like you're looking at it, but you're not believing it.
The owner of the club had completely ignored fire safety codes. And when the blaze started, the only way out was blocked by screaming patrons.
I always like to think people had a chance, but in reality, with that amount of heat and consumption of oxygen in there, they were dead. They fell where they stood, or they died where they sat.
Investigators arrested Julio Gonzalez for setting the fire. Gonzalez was allegedly upset over the breakup of a relationship. He was convicted of arson and murder and sent to prison. The owner of the nightclub, who had been repeatedly cited for safety code violations, was killed in the blaze. 87 people died in a fire that could have been prevented. And the fire department is galvanized. They finally accept that fire code violations require stiff enforcement. Fire Marshal Emil Harnischweger works for a special task force created to investigate and shut down unsafe clubs and cabarets.
How many people do you think we have? Carmine, did you look upstairs before or no? In case we need PD?
Tonight, they are investigating a club in a tough part of Queens.
How many people upstairs?
This bust is an attempt to prevent another tragedy. Upstairs, the fire marshals fan out to look for potential violations.
Go in the back room. Yeah. Against the wall where they're playing cards.
Investigators are indignant over broken fire codes.
You were supposed to have everything done. You've got a second means of egress here. This just goes onto the roof. That's no good. It's no good at all, right? You have no emergency lights. You have nothing here, really.
This is what they call an exit, and the exit is supposed to lead to the safety of the street. And this leads basically nowhere, just to a setback at the back of the building.
You talk about a happy land. This is it.
Harnischweger's team has already cited this club once. Tonight, they shut it down.
And we're going to try our best to close the places down that have to be closed down and try to have the people know, go to places that are legal. Avoid these places which have locked exits and blocked doors and windows and such. Get away from them. You're going to get yourself killed in those places.
For this fire inspector, every club he shuts down may mean hundreds of lives saved. A single burning building can be a death trap for many. But what happens when an entire city is in flames? There is nothing more terrifying than an entire city in flames. Whether ravaged by war or natural disaster. But when a city is torched by its own citizens, firefighters suddenly find themselves endangered by the very people they are trying to save. Los Angeles, 1992. A controversial trial involving police officers has ignited racial tension. Battalion Chief Terrence Manning finds himself in the middle of a hostile environment.
As far as you can see, fires are burning. We're in there about 10 minutes, and all of a sudden, I hear somebody yell, "They're attacking us now," and I see Molotov cocktails coming over the wall into our compound.
Angry mobs are setting fires that spread across the city like a windswept firestorm.
There's a crowd of approximately 400 to 500 down there, and we're losing a lot of windshields. OCD Battalion 1 at 50th and Avalon. We're getting out right now.
We hear the radio is basically non-stop fire messages of fire companies being attacked, of buildings burning, of firemen requesting help from the police, and no help is available.
We have an injured fireman, and we still have no PD. We're working on PD, and we cannot get any PD for you.
An official state of emergency is declared. Deputy Chief Don Anthony becomes a general in a war against a conflagration that threatens the entire city.
Camp, we need to call all the dispatchers to the floor. This thing's going to get out of hand.
We had been preparing, working with the police department, developing our tactical plans based on history that we have had with civil disturbance.
That history was a racial uprising in 1965 in a Los Angeles neighborhood called Watts.
Watts started very slowly one evening. Took 2 days before it was in full swing. 3 hours after this started on April 29th, we were in a full-blown riot.
Anthony's experience did not prepare him for what he was about to witness as he boards a helicopter for an aerial view.
We took off of the roof on this building and we cleared the parapet. I can see between 30 and 40 major fires burning right at this time with the columns of smoke going up. It looked like the Kuwaiti oil fields burning.
Down below in the burning city, Battalion Chief Manning's situation is growing ever more threatening.
A huge crowd is gathering. Cars are burning, and immediately they begin to converge upon us.
It is an angry mob bent on destruction. Manning's uniform has made him a marked target.
I looked to my right and I saw a civilian come running off the curb with a crowbar. Looked up in my horror and he smashed through my window on my right side. And as the crowbar came through, it struck me in the right shoulder. I reached for my radio to call for help, and I realized my arm wasn't moving.
Manning's driver skillfully steers the vehicle away from the oncoming crowd and finally speeds away to safety. But more of the city is on fire, and the violence is getting worse. Shots ring out, and firefighters run for cover.
I got on the radio, do not dispatch any units down there unless they're equipped with body armor, bulletproof vests, and a fully encapsulated enclosed cab on the fire trucks.
But the vest won't help firefighter Scott Miller as he drives a fire truck through the danger zone.
fireman shot. We need help immediately.
Miller is shot in the face by a drive-by gunman.
After I was shot, my conscious recognition was a flashlight and a loud noise. I went face first down onto the steering wheel. I looked down at my feet. I was partially paralyzed. I could see the blood running down onto the floor of the truck. I knew I was hurt, and I was hurt badly.
Miller is rushed to the hospital, and SWAT teams are mobilized to rescue other fire crews. The firefighters adopt a guerrilla warfare strategy. Swoop in, attack the fire, and run.
Move in with the strong force, the strike team, hit hard, move out for the next incident. If you see another incident, move into it. Make sure you communicate where you are, what your resources are, what you're doing, so we can track you, so we don't lose you.
Firemen are also ordered off roofs and ladders where they are vulnerable to snipers.
I remember a civilian walking up to me, being rude and belligerent, and he pulled on my outside jacket, and he goes, "See, I know what you're wearing under here. You're wearing, he goes, that's a bulletproof vest." He goes, "It doesn't matter." He goes, "We're going to shoot you in the head." And I remember thinking, why? This individual, I'm here to save these houses. Done nothing to him. Why would this individual make statements like that?
Los Angeles is a war zone, and its firefighters potential targets.
There didn't seem to be any fear, any reprisal fear of anybody that they were going to burn and loot at night.
Commanders quickly realize that they do not have the resources to fight all of the fires.
Tell Division 3 that we're going to start taking his resources away. I'm going to put him down in South Central. At the peak of the activity, about midnight, the first night, we were running about 260 incidents per hour of fires and medical emergencies.
The first night of the worst civil disturbance in American history ends as dozens of buildings are left to burn to the ground. By the next morning, the violence has reached a terrifying crescendo, and Fire Command must make a difficult but necessary decision. Firefighters will not go out unprotected.
At about noon, the chief asked me to take the mayor up and fly the area. And I said, "Chief, I don't have any police protection." He says, "Where do you want them?"
The cavalry arrives in the form of California Highway Patrol officers. At last, firefighters are able to get into areas they had to give up the night before. By daylight of day 3, they can see the destruction. But even with the protection of daylight, the fires and the violence do not cease.
This was different. Things have changed. We had to first assess the situation as what are the crowds like? What is the mood like? Because they would light fires because they knew it would draw us into these fires. Then they would attack us.
Police can do little to protect themselves, or firefighters.
I think we had about 80 fire trucks and ambulances damaged with either windows broken out, tires shot out. One fire truck had 28 bullet holes in it.
But those who attack the firefighters are the exception. There are scores of civilians who step into harm's way to help.
And I'll always remember that. The citizens that came down the street with machetes and say, "We're going to protect your escort unit. We're going to protect your fire trucks for you. They aren't going to burn these buildings down."
The city has now become a militarized zone as National Guardsmen patrol the empty streets. A curfew is imposed. An uneasy sense of calm permeates the city as firefighters begin the arduous task of mopping up. 3,600 individual fires have exhausted the fire department. Total property damage is estimated at over $500 million. 59 firefighters are left injured. 4 were shot, including Scott Miller. He's lost the use of his left arm, but not his humanity.
What happened to me was the result of one irresponsible person's actions, and it's not the result of a community as a whole. I have only one person that I hold responsible for what happened to me, and that was the individual that pulled the trigger.
For the men and women of the Los Angeles Fire Department, battling a city in flames was dangerous business. But when a small town in Texas self-combusts, what are the consequences? When oxygen meets a spark, fire occurs, but its ferocity is determined by fuel. When combustible chemicals are added to a blaze, the results can be explosive. Nowhere is the danger of explosive chemical fire greater than Southeast Texas, the petrochemical capital of America. It rose to prominence during World War II when the need for gasoline turned small communities into boom towns. For the port of Texas City, that phrase took on ominous meaning on an April morning in 1947. Townspeople flocked to the docks to watch a ship on fire.
We did know that there was a ship on fire, but that's all. And so that attracted people down there.
Irene O'Sullivan and her daughter Timmy are home, 2 miles away, getting ready to join the excited throng.
The smoke was so beautiful. It was pink and orange and purple, and everybody in town was talking about it.
No one knew that the ship's cargo of fertilizer was a chemical compound, highly explosive ammonium nitrate. Without warning, the ship explodes with ferocious force. A mushroom cloud climbs a mile into the sky. The shock wave is felt more than 150 miles away.
When it blew us off of the bed, almost across the room.
The next thing I remember, I was on the floor, and I was laying flat on my back.
The windows all came out, and there was glass everywhere.
Shrapnel from the first explosion sets fire to chemical refineries.
Here comes another explosion.
Chain reactions sweep across the city. A radio reporter is on the air as the firestorm rages into the night.
You have just heard it. We are bending down. The sky is like broad daylight. It may have been another barge that went up.
When it was all over, more than 700 people lay dead in the ruins of the refinery town.
If things had been labeled, if we'd had the right rules in place, if we'd followed the rules, if our people had been well trained, Texas City wouldn't be caught unprepared.
The Texas City disaster was one of the things that pushed the oil industry in particular into the position to recognize that they needed to come together, to work together during an emergency event.
Today, when disaster occurs in the petrochemical region, rescue teams are prepared.
I guess I'll be working with you as the Seaman Command Liaison. Okay.
Brad Baczynski helps run the Regional Chemical Disaster Agency called SEMA. It pools the emergency response resources of more than 100 petrochemical companies in the Houston area.
SEMA dispatch
I need you to respond with your 1,000 gallons of foam concentrate to the staging area.
Okay, that's clear.
I deal directly with the troops on the front line. I help coordinate and facilitate the strategic and tactical positions we're going to take and what things are we going to do.
Coordinated response efforts like SEMA have saved lives, but safety hazards continue to plague the region. In 1992, a thick fog of natural gas began leaking from a storage facility outside of Brenham, Texas. It seeps towards the mobile home of Jane Minen, who's asleep along with her 5-year-old son, Derek.
I knew immediately when I woke up that I smelled gas in the house, and it was really strong. And we had smelled gas out there before, but always outside. I called 911 right away, and all of a sudden, everything goes white, and you can hear wood cracking. Next thing I know, I open my eyes, and I'm outside. You know, I knew I saw trees. Then I thought about Derek, and I called for Derek.
Jane's home and everything for 2 miles around have been obliterated. Rescuers find Jane buried in rubble and airlift her shattered body to Houston. 31 days later, Jane regains consciousness in the hospital, only to learn that her son Derek didn't make it.
That's been a hard thing because Derek died and I lived. So I always thought he would have been a lot better on this earth for it than me because he was so precious.
Jane's grief turned to rage when she learned that the chemical plant was sited with faulty safety procedures. She became a political activist and fought a 2-year battle to create stronger safety standards for chemical companies.
I didn't want Derek's death to go in vain. That was my drive, and that was my motivation to get back and to get better. That's why I wanted to come home, was to fight, to bring about new rules and regulations because there were no laws, there were no rules. They didn't break any law and they killed 3 people. And that's not right.
But the hard truth is, wherever chemicals exist, wherever oil and gas are pulled from the earth, disaster lurks. And it takes a special breed to battle the hellish results. The phenomenon of fire is remarkably simple. Heat, oxygen, and fuel. But when that fuel is chemical, heat turns flammable liquids into highly explosive gas. Fireballs, toxic vapors, and tremendous temperatures are what firefighters must face. When a refinery is on fire anywhere in the world, hazardous materials specialist David Gormley can be called on a moment's notice.
We would be looking for the color of the smoke, the runoff, if there was a leak, you know, the product was leaking somewhere, where it was going, so we could prevent any further contamination.
Encapsulated suits are used to protect hazardous materials specialists from toxic side effects.
It provides the maximum protection in those situations where absorption through the skin or contamination to the skin or an inhalation hazard is there.
But once the threat of contamination is removed, there are more hazards lurking in these flames. When called to a refinery disaster, firefighters seldom know exactly what chemicals they're dealing with. And when certain gases are allowed to mix in a superheated environment, explosive chain reactions can result. James Sledge teaches at the world's leading industrial firefighting program at Texas A&M University. He's been on the front line of some of the worst chemical fires.
You could have a
pressure-type problems, flammable gases, loading facilities, propane, butane, things of this sort, or you have general-purpose products. These things can be spontaneous ignition when they come in contact with the air.
Heat alone can trigger an explosion, so water is used to cool the fire and corral the flames away from storage areas. Once the fire is under control, foam suffocates the remaining flames by cutting off the oxygen supply. But when combating a chemical fire, the most important tool is a firefighter's senses.
You want to listen to the fire. The fire can tell you a lot by just listening to it. You know, is it a real heavy rumbling noise? That may mean that, hey, I've got more pressure into it.
But refinery fires are not the worst situation in the petrochemical world. When high-pressure oil or gas ignites at its source, the result is a raging torrent of fire called a blowout. Rocketing from deep within the earth, these roaring columns of fire can soar as high as a 6-story building. It takes a special breed to battle these wild wells. In the early days, they were trailblazers with cowboy names: Coots Matthews, Boots Hansen, and Red Adair.
Yeah, I went to work when I was 19 years old for Red Adair, and he told me, I don't ever want to see red coveralls run. If you have my name on your back, I don't ever want to see you run.
Working in Adair's footsteps, Brian Krause has traveled the world facing down dangerous blowouts. Like this offshore rig explosion in the North Sea that claimed 168 lives. But all of his experience did not prepare him for the worst oil field disaster of the century. At the close of the Gulf War, Saddam Hussein ordered his retreating troops to set the Kuwaiti oil fields ablaze.
The military had gotten reconnaissance photos of the Iraqis actually wrapping the wellheads with explosives. They knew to put the charges in the absolute worst place they could put them to make it very difficult to control.
When blowout teams arrived, over 700 wells were on fire. A conflagration so huge, it was visible from outer space.
Basically everything you see out there are oil well fires, all the light spots.
But Krause and his men skillfully launch a counterattack.
First thing we have to do is clear all the debris away from it. We had to get in there and physically hacksaw the bolts off. You have to clear all the source of ignition away from it and get the flow going straight up in one direction.
The blowout teams then pump thousands of gallons of water from the Persian Gulf to cool these superheated infernos.
The shields you see around the bulldozers and the monitor sheds where you're spraying water is just like corrugated tin that you see on any barn anywhere, and that just reflects the heat off of you so you can operate that machinery in there.
Dynamite is then used to snuff the flames.
What that does, it creates a void in the flow, knocks the oxygen out of it, and it'll put the fire out just like that. That's really the most dangerous part of our job, is once the fire's out, is getting in there in the gas and repairing what damage there is to be done.
This is the well we're working on right now. I think it's the hardest boiling well in Kuwait that I've seen.
But Krause and his men know the real enemy is not the fire. It's the fuel, the raw natural gas and oil raging from the wellhead.
Anything can set these things off. Just static electricity in the air can set them off.
And a wrong move can be the difference between life and death.
Instinctively, we work together so much that one of us can look in the other one's eyes, and when it's time to go, we don't ask questions, let's get out of here.
Once the fire is out, teams cautiously move in to begin capping the gusher. Capping a well means overpowering the pressure with sheer force.
The best comparison I have it is if you've seen cowboys rope a calf, you know. You use these cables to actually suck it down over that flow, because you go on over it, it's blowing so hard, it'll blow everything off of there. So we use cables to pull it down, and we use different methods of stinging. Actually, a device will stab into the weld.
After 9 arduous months, the blowout teams finally win the war, extinguishing 742 fires. One of the worst urban infernos in human history.
We've never lost anybody. You never do think about that, because I think if you do start thinking about that, you're not thinking about what you should be thinking about.
Every time a human structure burns, the stakes are high. Lives depend on the technical ability and the courage of the firefighters.
They did things and called up energy from within themselves to go again and again and again to perform 40 straight minutes of rescue.
We go to work every day trusting the person next to us. When we go in that building and there's only 2 or 3 of us going in there and there ain't anybody else in there between us and the fire and the hose line, I gotta have full trust and confidence in this person.
Whether it's battling a towering inferno, a city in flames, or a blazing blowout, it is the collective spirit of the firefighters themselves that is the ultimate weapon against the fury of fire.